So good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 p.m. in Paris, so I think we can start this webinar. First, I would like to welcome everybody warmly and thank you for being here. So I see that there is already questions coming in the chat, so that's great. We'll do our best to answer those questions. For clarity, this is the webinar that introduced the BiodivConnect call on restoration of ecosystem functioning, integrity, and connectivity. And so this is the fifth Biodiversa Plus joint call for research proposal. So during this webinar, we will present, I'll present the speakers first, of course. So my name is Clara Superbi. I work for Biodiversa Plus as the Research and Inclusive Officer, and I am based at the French Agency for Research in Paris. And today I am here with my colleagues, so Magnus Tannerfelt, who's the Biodiversa Plus co-chair and who is based at Formas in Sweden. Bérangère Broche, working with me at the French Agency for Research as Biodiversa Plus joint code officers. And for technical support, there is also my colleagues Céline Billière, who's the leader of the work packages that promote and support research as part of Biodiversa Plus, and Sophie Germain, who's the Biodiversa Plus. I see that people are moving the slides around. There we go. And Sophie Germain, who is the Biodiversa Plus operational manager. So we warmly welcome you all today. And the program for this webinar, so I'll start by giving you some technical instruction as well, and then I will give the floor to my colleague Magnus, who will present Biodiversa Plus in general and the core activity and objective of Biodiversa Plus. Then he will present the topic and the scientific content of the BiodivConnect call in more details. We will have 10 to 15 minutes for a question answer session regarding specifically this scientific content of the call. And then we will enter into another session regarding more the call evaluation process, eligibility criteria, our expectation towards funded project, etc. And this will end with another 20 minutes of question answer session. After this webinar, that should end around 2:25, you will be able to join national sessions that are organized by some of the national or regional funders of the BiodivConnect call. And so if you are, you should have received specific links by email a few hours ago to be able to join the session. And if you haven't, all the links are available on the BiodivConnect call webpage, but I'll give you this information again at the end of the general webinar. Before we start, I would like to highlight that there is a list of documents that state out everything that you need to know for this call, including the call text and the research priorities. You also have the pre-proposal and full proposal application form, a checklist for applicants for you to make sure that your proposal are complete when you submit them. Information regarding data policy, the detailed assessment criteria that will be used by the evaluation committee to evaluate your proposal, the conflict of interest, confidentiality, and non-disclosure policy as well. And so all those documents are available on the Biodiversa Plus website. So you have the link here, so the BiodivConnect webpage. And in addition, there is a related webpage where the list of participating funding organizations for this call is available and updated regularly. It's almost the final one, but there might be some final change in the coming days. And we also have a FAQ that answers the question that we receive the most often. So please make sure to visit this FAQ when you have a question, and of course to read in details all of those documents and information that are online. Some instruction regarding this webinar. We are happy to expect a lot of people. I hope everybody will be able to connect, but there is a a risk that not everybody will be able to, because we are limited at 1,000 participants at the same time. So the webinar is being recorded, and we will make the replay available on the Biodiversa Plus website in the next few days. Um, Audio is available to the presenters only, so you will not be able to speak up. But you can ask questions using the Q&A function. You won't be able to use the chat during this webinar. So we will do our best to answer most of your questions. We might not be able to answer all questions, so we apologize in advance for that. We would ask you to try to ask questions that are related to the sessions that is being presented. So the first session will be on the core topic per se, and then the second session will be on the process and the criteria used to evaluate proposals. And if you have questions that are related to your national or regional funding organizations, you can find the list of the contact point of those organizations on the Biodiversa Plus website. So please keep those questions for them, because we probably don't have the answers anyway. So I hope so far everything is clear, and I will hand over to Magnus for a presentation of Biodiversa Plus.
Thank you so much, Clara. Hello, my name is Magnus Tannefelt. I'm one of the 3 co-chairs of the Biodiversa Plus partnership. And as said, I will now talk a bit about Biodiversa Plus as such, and then about the content of the call, and later we will get into all the details about eligibility, how to apply, and all of that. So now we focus on the content. And just to give you a brief overview of Biodiversa, it's the European Biodiversity Partnership, and the overall aim is to support excellent biodiversity research with an impact for policy and society. And we have currently 83 partners from 41 countries, primarily in Europe, but also in other parts of the world. And at the bottom there, you can see that the partnership as such has existed since 2005, but is now in this Biodiversa Plus installment, and we are still increasing the number of partners in this. And it is probably the biggest program, joint program, certainly in Europe and probably actually. Now, the partners, just so you understand, we have ministries in charge of research and research funding organization on the policies primarily. Here is also a world map of where we are. So what we do is at the top there you see support research and innovation. And the majority of the work there is actually our research calls. We are launching 1 per year. So this is the 5th call that we launch under Biodiversa Plus, and they're all in the order of funding of around 40 million euros, jointly funded by the partners and by the European Commission. But we also have a large working stream on harmonizing biodiversity monitoring schemes. We promote nature-based solutions and the business and finance sector work on biodiversity. We focus very much on supporting the policy science interface. We work at the global arena as well, and we have a specific work stream on supporting transformative change. So these calls are one aspect, a key aspect of what we do, and guiding us is the overall strategic research and innovation agenda, the so-called SRIA, which is available online, and we are updating that this year, where we have a number of topical themes on biodiversity and restoration, transformative change, and the global action, and then cross-cutting themes, including the monitoring, harmonization of monitoring schemes across Europe and beyond, and of course, it's gathering the knowledge needed on biodiversity itself, its status, trends, and drivers. And we have a cross-cutting theme covering also nature-based solutions that I mentioned. And we have a lot of stakeholder engagement and outreach work across everything that we do. Now, to do this, of course, we are operating in a very crowded and ever increasingly crowded landscape of organizations, networks, funders, etc. And we are primarily working together with the other European partnerships, but also with a number of global organizations, of course, with IPBES, etc. But enough of that. Let's dive more into this specific call, BiodivConnect. And the full title is Restoration of Ecosystem Functioning, Integrity and Connectivity. And the context for this is, first of all, we have a key objective for Biodiversa to produce actionable knowledge to tackle the direct and indirect drivers of biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation. And we have a specific flagship program focusing on the protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems across land and sea. And with this, we have the BiodivConnect call objective to foster innovative research to be integrated into nature protection and restoration practices for well-functioning ecosystems and habitats. And the policy context here is primarily the Global Biodiversity Framework, the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, and the EU Biodiversity Strategy by 2030. And now, of course, we have the nature restoration regulation at the EU level. So the work done and the knowledge coming out of this call will hopefully feed into all of these policy contexts. Now, the scope and expected impact is, first of all, we will support research projects and restoration efforts in all parts of the world and in all types of ecosystems and habitats. There may be some restrictions at the national funding level, but we'll get back to that later. Overarching goals are you have to show that your project will add transnational value. Academic excellence and novelty in the research is key, as is societal and policy impact, and the projects will be evaluated on these aspects. They should definitely be interdisciplinary, integrating approaches and skills from all kinds of sciences, and preferably transdisciplinary, at least clearly somehow involving stakeholders in society to show that you would be able to create societal and policy impact. So we have three overarching topics that are not excluded. You don't need to cover the issues. I'll get into other key questions. So the first one is on setting restoration targets and measuring success. The second on scaling and transferability of restoration efforts. And the third one on the long-term sustainability. We have, under the first topic, we want you to address the setting of restoration targets and measuring of success in terms of ecosystem function, integrity, and connectivity at different scales. And you can there consider shifting baselines, integration of ecological, cultural, and social contexts with different types of approaches, identifying relevant indicators, develop prioritization and evaluation tools, including spatial planning and technical aspects, AI, etc. Cost-benefit analysis can be included here. The role of local and indigenous people are often key when you work in practice. And in the call text, you will find more of these key questions or knowledge gaps that have been identified under this topic. So these are just some samples to give you a flavor for what we're looking for. When it comes to the scaling and transferability, you could address meta community and meta ecosystem approaches, and also landscape level and cross ecosystem impacts, land, sea, transition zones, etc. The drivers, enablers, and barriers for upscaling of restoration efforts, the role of business, finance, and markets when it comes to biodiversity conservation and restoration, and policy coherence across regions and etc. And some examples also from the third topic on the long-term sustainability of the restoration efforts. That includes defining the long-term targets for regulation and policies and monitoring to address social justice and equity, including intergenerational fairness, to evaluate robustness to climate change and other pressures, develop predictive models and foresight methods, and ways to anticipate and prevent undesired outcomes of different efforts. So those are some examples. And as said, you will find all the details in the call text. Read it carefully. And with that, I'll stop here and open for questions.
Thank you very much, Magnus. So we do have a first question regarding whether it is possible to propose a project combining the three topics.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, of course. So the first question is it possible to propose a project combining all three topics?
Yes, for sure. So depending on the focus of your project, you may address a number of these also across the different topics. So these are not themes in the sense that it has been used in some of the previous calls by Biodiversa, where we had themes and some of the funders would only support some of the themes and so on. That is not the case. So it's up to you to basically pick and choose from these key questions and under the different topics.
Thank you, Magnus. Another question is, can projects that fall within the scope of organic farming research be funded?
Yes, of course, biodiversity has to be at the forefront of the project and restoration and protection of biodiversity and ecosystems. But as I said, any realm, any types of landscape, also urban settings can be included, for example.
Thank you. Which kind of outputs are you looking for or would prioritize?
Well, that depends on what you mean. I think when you read the call text, I hope that becomes more clear. And the outputs can be of different sorts. Of course, you need to have scientific output, published papers, basically, but also societal impact side of it. But exactly what those outputs are will depend very much on the context of your proposal and your project.
Thank you. So it's more a comment. So it seems that the three topics are sort of academic. Oh, I lost the question. So that is a study of aspects of restoration and not actually implementing restoration in the field. Is this correct?
Well, it's a research call, so you have to produce new knowledge or synthesize existing knowledge to support the implementation. But we are actually going all the way from some parts of a project can be more blue sky science, and some parts can be very hands-on implementing or evaluating efforts on, for example, restoration.
Thank you.
Answers your question.
So how strongly do proposals need to demonstrate links to previous Biodiversa or Horizon projects?
Well, links in terms of being fully aware of what has already been done, so we are not repeating or overlapping, unless that is you want to verify or evaluate. That's of course fine. But So not to reinvent existing wheels, for example, but of course you don't have to have had a previous project, if that was the question. The consortium can be a totally new consortium, and that we would welcome that very much, including new actors, if you will. Um, but you need to demonstrate that whatever you propose to do is really added value in the context of what we already know and what is happening both in science and in society.
Thank you very much, Magnus. I feel so there's a lot of question coming in, but I think that most of the other one are related to the process and eligibility and participating countries. Uh, I'm
Come back to
doing,
it.
oh yeah, so sorry, I found one relevant to this session. So can the topics be done in the context of transnational consortia? And if so, oh no, and then it's about the rules. But yeah, I guess the response is yes, it should.
Yeah, you have to have at least three countries in there. And we'll come back to the eligibility criteria for the consortia and the partners. But is a transnational effort, and you have to show that that is also an added value for your project or from your project.
Thank you. And is it possible to address different scales, global and regional, in one same proposal?
Oh, yes, definitely. So upscaling is very much about that, or transferring from so knowledge that is has been gathered in one place or in one setting that if your project is aiming at and using that and seeing if that can be upscaled or transferred, that is very valuable, I would say.
Thank you very much, Magnus. To what extent the proposals will need to address the CBD Coming Montreal GBF targets at both the global and national level?
Again, it depends on the goal of your project, but of course it's we are working in the policy context, and what we want to achieve is for what comes out of here ultimately to support the global targets as well, and as well as the EU strategy, etc. But yeah, it has to be whatever you put in your proposal has to be meaningful in the context of the project that you are proposing. So you don't try to just tick the boxes and name, global targets, etc. It's just, yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you. Um, Are projects focusing on specific animal groups, such as, for example, amphibians, eligible for funding, or should it be a multi-species approach spanning different parts of biodiversity?
No, there is no limit to, I mean, you don't have to have a number of species, for example. As long as the project is relevant in this, rather large international effort in that context. So even if it's say one or a few threatened species, you want to focus on that, that's perfectly fine. Of course, the outcome ultimately should be relevant also beyond the very local level and beyond a very specific, perhaps, setting. As said, these are large research consortia so you will have to show that it actually what you do is relevant at that level, but there is no limit in that sense on the number of species or anything.
Thank you. Have one very key questions. Do the project need a practical element of restoration?
You don't need to have it in your project. We do not demand that they are transdisciplinary in that sense, but you have to show that whatever you produce or the outcome or the result uh, has a meaning for society and or policy and management. So these are the two main criteria that your project will be evaluated upon. That is the excellence of the research and the questions and the approach, and the potential for impact, societal and policy impact. We know that these are 3-year projects. You have to be realistic about what you can achieve within the project, but the goal has to be that the outcome can be used and taken up into society in policy and management.
Thank you very much, Magnus. And I guess it's a bit related. Can the innovative part of the project be, for example, technological development?
Yes, yes. If that is, yeah. I mean, innovation, research, and tech. We often lack the technical aspects in projects, the engineers. So I think that would be very welcome. Of course, again, depending on what the aim of your and the context of your project is. But if it's relevant to solve the questions that you put, yeah, for sure.
Thank you. When your reference projects being interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, do you envisage project consortia comprising education, community engagement partners, etc.?
That is also very useful, I think, for most projects, I would say. Communication for sure, and you would to work towards society, you need to have you need to work with the stakeholders in efficient ways, and also, I mean, developing methods to do that could be part of your so communications
I think you're
science could be also, for example, part of it.
great.
Did you lose me?
Oh yeah, a bit, but I think we were able to catch up.
Okay.
So all good. Um, should the research support see the EU nature restoration strategy specifically, or are projects aimed at supporting restoration strategies in other parts of the world also supported by Biodiversa Plus?
Yes. Yes, we are global. We are primarily based in Europe and with the European Commission and their needs, policy needs, which Biodiversa as a partnership is set up to also to feed into that. But the global perspective is key also for the EU. So they want us to be able to show or to make sure that EU is very much part of the global solutions and in interacting at the global scale. And of course, biodiversity is global, and you have hotspots in all over the world. So yes, it does not have to be. I mean, the impact for policy impact, for example, does not have to be at the European level, and it could also be directly on the global or some other regional policy.
Thank you, Magnus. So there is a consortium who's planning a project focusing on learning lessons from the management of an invasive species across Europe. Could you precise the level of biodiversity for this goal? Is it within species, among biomes, etc.?
So the question is if, yeah, I mean, it could be any, it could also be genetic. So it's at every level of biodiversity, taxonomic, ecosystem, the functioning and integrity and the connections are a really key part here in this call. So connections between ecosystems and the integrity and the functioning at all levels of the ecosystem, including soil and everything.
Thank you very much, Magnus. I think we can only take few extra questions. So the next one would be, does a development and evaluation of new methodologies of restoration can be a standalone project, or would it be better to be part of a larger project? So development and evaluation of new methodologies of restoration.
I think that could be a standalone project, but yeah. So if you cover the the scope of the call and address the some of the key questions that we put up in the call text, could be, yeah. If it's transnational and all of that, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. So I think we need to move on, unfortunately, so we won't be able to address more questions. Maybe one that has been re-asked, but I think is very clear to clarify for everybody is the one regarding whether we can address one, two, or three of the topics, and should we limit ourselves to these topics and what is listed under these topics, maybe.
No, I think what you address should fall, of course, under the overarching heading, and these topics are a way of organizing, and the questions that are actually explicit in them, that I gave some examples of, and they are in the call text. They are Again, they are examples of things that would fall into there. But if you have something different. We want you to be innovative and maybe cut across sectors and everything. So as long as it falls within the scope of the call, that should be fine.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Magnus, for all those inputs. I hope it is helpful for everybody and it helps clarify the expectation regarding the scientific content of the code. Um, so now we will be moving on to the types of projects funded under this call and the expectation to our applications. And we will also give an overview of some useful resources that you can use to get your consortium and your project ready for submission. I hope from now on we will answer a lot of the questions that have been asked already in the chat. Um, so, and I will be doing this presentation. So first, a bit of an overview of how does a joint co-funded call work. So basically under this call, there is a number of national or regional funding organizations that decided to join forces and to reserve an overall budget altogether to fund this call. There is also co-fundings coming from the European Commission that are redistributed at the national and regional level through the funding organization. So all those fundings allow to do a single joint call with a single joint international evaluation, so which means one ranking list. And the goal is to fund the best top project of this ranking list. So there is no national or regional pre or post selections. Every consortium are selected and evaluated at the international level of the code. So it is an opportunity to have bigger consortium and transnational consortium with a more important budget envelope at the size of the consortium. So for example, you could have so this is very hypothetical, of course, but you could have a national contribution of, for example, 200,000 euros per project. But with all the national or regional contribution, the overall consortium will have a budget of 1.2 million euros to conduct their research. So it is a good opportunity to be part of a bigger transnational research project and to join forces with other teams. And in this blue square, it's some average or ideas of the type of project we found. So there are what we call medium-sized projects with 1.2 to 1.5 million euros per project on average. And I insist this is not a strict limit of funding. It really depends of the organization present within one consortium and the goal of the project. And on average, the consortia we funded so far gather 6 partners from different countries, keeping in mind that we request to have 3 minimum countries within a single consortium. Overall, the projects we aim at funding under this call are expected to be scientifically excellent. As Magnus mentioned, they are encouraged to be transdisciplinary where relevant, and so to engage stakeholders. They should demonstrate transnational added value and also demonstrate political, societal relevance and hold a potential for impact. So I will enter into more details because there is specific assessment criteria to evaluate this. And we also here want to specify that those expectations are at the level of the whole project and not at the level of a single national or regional research partners. And it is very important that at the level of the whole consortium, you make sure to have the right expertise for your project as a whole. So some definition regarding the keywords we use so far. So for transnational added value, this is the value that results from the transnational research project and which is additional to the value that would have resulted from research projects funded at a national or regional level. So the evidence of transnational added value can be found either directly among the countries involved in the research or through indirect value accrued as a result of their joint work. So there's some examples. So this value could include the relevance to international policy and management processes. It could link expertise and efforts across international teams. It could be about upscaling or downscaling of efforts. It could be methodology and knowledge across country and regions, etc. And so for this call, the transnational added value should be end-user oriented and benefit environmental and societal actors beyond researchers generating insights on the way. And so this definition, you can find it as a whole in the assessment criteria, which is the 6th call document available from our website. We also talked about interdisciplinarity. So interdisciplinary science refers to the, oh, I think I lost my slides. Here we go. The transnational added value. So sorry, interdisciplinary science refers to the involvement of, oh, someone is moving my slide. I'm sorry. I will. Sorry, we are several ones who have access to the slides. So I will kindly ask to the technical supports to not move the slides around. Thank you. So interdisciplinarity. So interdisciplinary science refers to the involvement of multiple academic disciplines. So the research teams should therefore span all disciplines of relevance for their project. So by disciplines, they can be natural sciences, social sciences, technical sciences, humanities, arts, etc. But that being said, proposals should demonstrate how they will ensure the equitable and appropriate combination and inclusion of those disciplines, and so collaboratively integrating their approaches and skills. And transdisciplinarity, which is different. So it refers to the inclusion of non-academic stakeholders working together with researchers from multiple scientific disciplines at the different stages of the project, with a common goal, which is to co-produce new knowledge relevant for society, including policy. So where relevant, stakeholders should be involved in different stages of the project. So this can be the initial phase when defining the research objectives and strategies. So here there is some co-designing engagement. It could also be with respect to the implementation of the project through data collection or analysis. Also the contribution to better dissemination of the knowledge gained. They could also facilitate a systemic approach to a challenge, etc. However, this involvement must not be an end in itself, so this is very important. It should be designed to add clear value to the project. It should be relevant to the project. Again, so for transdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity, you'll find the detailed definition in the call document 6. Um, So everything that we said will be evaluated by an evaluation committee that is composed of independent experts. So those experts are academic experts. So they will compose a panel of, well, the scientific panel, but there will also be policy management experts that will compose a policy management panel. And so at the first stage, the scientific panel will evaluate pre-proposals against the criteria fit to the scope of the call and novelty or originality of the proposed research, while the policy management experts will evaluate the potential for societal, including policy impact of the pre-proposals. And so depending on the outcomes of this first stage, your consortium may be invited to submit a full proposal. So I wish to enter into more detail. So it remains a summary of the full assessment criteria. So again, please make sure to read all the documents. But here is still a bit more details of the assessment or evaluation criteria we use. So under fit to the scope of the call, so it's not a mark, it's a yes or no. Here, the evaluator will assess the relevance of the proposed research and its adequacy with respect to the objective of the scientific scope and research priorities as defined in the code documents. And if, and this is very important, if the response is no, they assess that there is no fit, projects will not be recommended for funding, regardless of its scientific quality. So this is very a key criteria. Then there is the criteria novelty of the research. So it's the novelty and originality of the research objectives. So how does the activity go beyond the state of the art? How does it advance knowledge? To what extent the proposal explores novel concept and advancement, and to what extent does its activity suggest and explore creative, original concepts. And of course, also, it includes the relevance of the proposed work and the clarity of the theoretical framework, the research questions, and the hypothesis to be tested. So this is assessed by the scientific panel. And then the policy management panel will assess the impact. So here at this stage, it's the potential contribution of the proposed research to society, including policy, as well as the transnational added value we talked about. And maybe I won't enter into all the details, but for the one of you who will be invited to submit a full proposal, here you can see the assessment criteria at step 2. So we have the two first one, again, assessed by the natural science, the scientific panel. So again, they will look at the fit to the scope and objectives of the call. But also the scientific excellence, which includes quality, originality of the project, its objectives, etc. Then a second criteria at this stage will be the quality and efficiency of the implementation. So this includes the quality and efficiency of the management structure of the project, but also the composition of the consortium, so the complementarity in terms of skills, competencies, etc., the level of partners integration, the appropriateness of the resources, including the funding that will be requested to carry on the proposed research, etc. And again, there is the impact criteria, and here, so it's about the societal relevance, including policy relevance and importance of the research for solving pressing issues. So we need clear statement of the societal application of your project, with clearly identified end users, transnational added value, etc., and special focus also on the approach to stakeholder engagement. So now that I've presented all the different criteria, the different steps, I would like to promote some of the Biodiversa Plus guides. So you would have understand the model promoted by Biodiversa Plus includes the involvement of stakeholders at different stage of your project design, implementation, dissemination of outputs, etc. We encourage this because we believe it is a constructive way to ensure that science will guide policy and society. And we also know that this may require extra efforts when we carry research. It is not always part of the classical curricula of researchers or academic studies to do so. So we try to accompany you through the publication of relevant and practical guides. So you have an overview of these guides here. And so I will briefly present you this guide. So the first key publication is the Stakeholder Engagement Handbook from Biodiversa Plus. So here it provides a method for effective stakeholder engagement in research projects to better understand our expectation and ambition. And it includes concrete example of tools and case studies from past funded projects on how to do this effectively. And there is some important annexes as well that are very practical. So I would encourage you to look at this first guide. Another one is a specific guide around the policy relevance of research proposals. So note that it is currently being updated because the policy environment has changed quite a bit since its publication, but a lot of the content remains valid, I think. So it's related to expectation regarding expliciting the policy relevance, and it provides few keys or concept to do so. It provides an overview of the policy landscape where you can use to help you identify which policy processes you should be targeting or engage with for your research. Oh, here we're moving again. Sorry. There we go, policy guide. So there is also hands-on guidance with do's and don'ts compiled by previous evaluator of Biodiversa Plus Call. So this is, I think, also a very good resource for you to look at. We have a guide on citizen science to explain a bit general methods and good practices in developing citizen science component in research projects, under which we also provide directories to additional resources and tools that you can mobilize to help you develop this section, as well as case studies again from previous projects. And last but not least, we have a guide related to the development of plans for data management, which sets the right ambition between open science and sharing outputs. And this is to help you ensure you have a credible proposal to submit on this aspect. And I think, yes, that's it for me. And so now I'm happy to give the floor to my colleague Bérangère, who will present the specific call process and eligibility rules for BiodivConnect.
Thank you, Clara. I hope everybody can hear me well. Perfect. So yes, let's follow with first, yeah, just a little time between the slide, but it will be okay. So we will start with the principal date of the call, if the slides work. Okay. Yeah, hope it will not, yes, move. So yes, let's start with the principal date for this call. This is a submission deadline. The first one for the step one will be the 7th of November. It will be on the EPSS, it's an online website. You will have the results of this first step mid-February. And then for the second step, another important date will be the full proposal submission deadline. That will be the 14th of April. We can advise you strongly to not wait until the last minute to submit, of course, this proposal online. And other important date for this call will be for the funded project. The earliest possible start for the project will be the 1st of December 2026. And the latest possible start for your funded project will be the 1st of April 2027. Can be important information if you need to have some field trip to expect in your project. So let's follow by the general call process. So it will be quite the same for the step one and step two. So I will only really detail the step one. So as I mentioned it before, the submission of the pre-proposal will be online. So on the electronic proposal submission system. After this deadline, there will be different eligibility checks. First one more focused on the formatting of your electronic submission. That can be just, please don't move the slide. Thanks. So that will be regarding the page limits, the number type of attachments allowed, and checking if there is some links and hyperlinks in your document, because just to mention it, it's not allowed. Then a second step of this eligibility check will be made by the funding organization contact point for each of their national or regional partner, and then a common eligibility check at the level of the proposal. So after this step, there will be the evaluation of your proposal if they are eligible. This evaluation is made by an independent committee that we call EVC, and there are two different two subcommittee. One specific with the scientific criteria that Clara showed you previously, and another one that will be for the policymaker. After this evaluation, you will have the communication of the result in mid-February. And then it will be quite the same processes for the step 2 with the full proposal submission. Okay. So next, and what is an important information regarding all the questions we already have regarding the participating countries and the funding organizations for this call. So there will be 40 funding organizations from 32 countries with a total funding of the call more than 40 million euros. Here is a list of the country that participate in the call, but of course we invite you to consult the updated list of these participating countries and funding organization in the link that is mentioned in the slide. To this link too, you will have access to the budget of each of the countries and the funding organization. Now we will see briefly the general eligibility criteria. The first one will be regarding the consortium composition. So first of all, it is really important to understand that the research teams that you will form by your consortium for being eligible, it must contain minimum 3 different countries that participating in the call, and requesting support from at least 3 different funding organizations participating in this call. And on these 3 different partners, it must be included at least 2 eligible partners per consortium that must come from different European Union member states or associated countries participating in the call. So here we just show you 2 little examples of an eligible on your left consortium, composed of a partner from Portugal, another one from Brazil, and a third one of Norway. So this consortium is eligible regarding this criteria because there is indeed 3 different participating countries, and 2 of them came from the European Union. One is a member state, Portugal, and the other one is an associated countries participating in the call. The example on the right is a non-eligible consortium composed of Poland, Brazil, and Taiwan partners. So yes, indeed, there is 3 different participated countries, but only one is a EU member state, that is Poland. The 2 others are not associated. Just to mention too, really importantly, that not all the Horizon Europe associated countries listed on the European Commission are eligible. It's only the country participated in this call, and they are all listed in the link from the previous slide. So now more focus on the proposal by himself. So the project are expected to act as a transnational project, but Clara already mentioned it. The project's duration is 3 years, and as far as possible, partners should participate in the project for its entire duration for these 3 years. and the proposal must be writing in English. If we focus more regarding the participants, so the researchers of this project, so all applicants requesting funding must be eligible and employed by an eligible organization, and this is according to the term and condition and the rules for each national or regional participating funding organization. What is really important is that the project coordinator, so the person that will be in charge of the project, must be funded by one of the funding organizations that participate in the call, and there is no change possible of this project partner coordinator during all the steps of evaluation and funding decision. And the project coordinator can only participate as a coordinator in this call for only one proposal. All the other individual researcher that can be that if there are some other researchers that is affiliated to several organizations, they must choose one to request funding for this call. Only one of the funding organization. Now we will focus more if after the first steps your consortium is invited to propose a full proposal. So at steps 2, there is some condition for minor changes between your pre and full proposal. So firstly, concerning the content, so no change regarding the scientific content will be allowed between this first and second step. It can be possible to have minor changes, but only to improve your proposal, and it must not change the objectives of your project. Regarding the budget, the change of budget between step 1 and step 2, each partners of the consortium must ask to their funding organization if it's allowed for them to make some changes of the budget. To follow with these changes between pre and full proposal regarding the consortium composition. So it is allowed to have a maximum of 3 changes of partners, and this must be provide the approval of the concerned funding organization. So what we define as a change is the addition of a partner in the consortium or the removal of a partner of the consortium. It is really important that all these changes should not change the substance of the proposal and there are no repercussions on the number of participants into the consortium. And all these changes concern the partner, including the self-financed partners. For all these questions regarding the changing, so it will be at step 2, it's really important that you communicate with your funding organization before the deadline of the submission and with the call secretariat. So please, in all your communication in this stage, indicate the acronyms of your proposal to help us to really follow all your questions. And to finish with this change between the pre and full proposals, last year for the previous call, we developed this widening option. That is an option to encourage the participation and the success of countries or regions with small research communities or where the research application has been less successful at step 1. So you will be updated of this list of countries or regions, and based on the voluntary of each of the consortia invited to submit in full proposal in step 2, you could include one or several new research partners for undersubscribed funding organization. And this addition of this new partner will not be considered in the maximum 3 changes that I mentioned just previously. Of course, this widening option can be activated only with the agreement of the funding organization, the national and regional rules, and you have to communicate with them before, of course, the submission deadline. So just to finish with this link with the funding organization, so each of your national or regional funding organization funds your own national regional research partner. So it's really important for you as applicant to approach your contact point of this funding organization to make sure that you respect well all the eligibility criteria from your national or regional organization. And just to mention, it's really important information that if one of the partner of your consortium is not eligible, the whole proposal will be considered ineligible and will not be evaluated. So please really focus on the link shared here to download the rules of the funding organization and to have the mail address of your funding organization contact point. And just last information concerning what we call the partner search tool. It's a tool that is available online on the EPSS. So it's a tool that was developed to help you to build your consortium during this step of the beginning of the step 1. So for now, for example, for your call, 11 projects are still looking for partners, and there are 90 partners are looking for be implemented in a project. So it's a tool that can help you to search some partners and projects, but to give you visibility through this platform of your country, discipline, and indicates keywords. And now we can have the last part of the question and answer part. So yes, I let my colleagues ask the question if there is some.
Yes, there is some questions. So maybe very generally, because like they are very specific, but there's a lot of questions regarding the countries or funding organization that are still pending on the website. So could we clarify whether those countries are participating or not, and when would we have the funding organization rules? Do you want me to take it? I can answer if you want.
Yes, please.
So for those countries, it's if they are listed, it's most likely that they will be participating. And it's just a matter of a few days for most of them to get their rules ready. So stay tuned. It will come. And there is, of course, still a slight chance that some of them step down or step out from the code. But if they are on the website, it's most likely that they will join the code in general. So there is a question. Magnus, you want to ask them?
No, go on,
Oh,
please.
sorry. Can we apply to several Biodiversa Plus calls with the same consortium and different focus and have a chance to get both? So for this question, it is possible beside the coordinator. So a coordinator cannot apply as a coordinator for more than one proposal. However, research partners can be part of several proposals submitted under this code. That being said, it must be, of course, different proposal with different scientific focus. And also keeping in mind that some funding organization may have additional restriction at the national or regional level. So there might be some funding organization that prevent applicants to take part in more than one proposal. But apart from the role of coordinator, this is not a strict rule at the level of the code.
We have a question which is more specific about the selection committee, the evaluation panel. Where are they from, and what disciplinary backgrounds will they have?
So For the evaluation committee, the goal is to have a very good representation of all the different disciplines that are relevant for the school. We also make sure that the geographic representation is fair and good. And we make sure also that the gender balance is respected. So we try to be as inclusive as possible when we build the evaluation committee and when we identify the experts. And we adjust that post-submission deadline to make sure we have the right expertise to evaluate all the proposals that are received. I hope this answered the questions.
I'm looking here to see we have quite a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, the size of the consortium, how large can they be? And what I think a follow-up question would be, what is normal? The minimum is 3 partners, but maybe Clara, you can.
Yes, regarding the information of the previous funding projects, you have access to all the detail of the consortium that has been funding previously for the calls of Biodiversa Plus. So I can give you an idea of the average of the consortium of the previous calls. So
I think it is around 6 on average, but
yes,
there is no maximum.
exactly, and it really depends on the focus and
Yeah,
the content of the proposal. Yeah.
just make sure it is a meaningful combination of participants, of course. Is it possible to participate as an SME, small business, which propose a novel solution to restore soil health? Yeah, is it relevant to have such a partner in the consortium?
So regarding the private partners, it really depends on the funding organization, national or regional rules. So you must really come back to your contact point for each of the country to be sure that private PME can be included in the consortium.
Another very different question. Will the gender balance of the consortium or geographical distribution of the partners also be evaluated?
So within the consortium, at step 2, this can indeed be taken into account as part of the, I think, implementation criteria.
Yes. What percentage of success are you aiming for in steps 1 and 2?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry.
I didn't catch it.
So what percentage of success or success rate are you aiming for in step 1 and step 2?
In step 1 and step 2. So in step 1, it's not well defined. We usually invite at least 100 full proposal, a bit more than that, to step 2. But this really depends from a call to another and on the initial participation rate of the call. At step 2, there's also a lot of variation from a year to another, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it's around 0.18 to 0.22, depending on the call. So maybe an average around 0. Like, I don't know, Céline, maybe you have a better idea of the number than I do.
Sorry, I was answering a question in the chat. Could you repeat, please, Clara?
The average success rate at step 2, I said it varies a lot from a call to another, but around 0.18, 0.22. Would that, yeah?
Yeah, and it really depends on the number of proposals submitted in step 1. So it depending on each call.
But around 20. Yeah, do all partners need to apply with their own country using the same project? And I could reply there that the proposal is sent to Biodiversa for the consortium as a whole. Some funders will require you need to check this carefully, to either register beforehand with them as well, or at some other stage in the process. So make sure that you look up every national funder's rules so that you abide to them to allow them to actually release the funds. But the proposal as such for the consortium is sent in only to Biodiversa Plus. And there is no other, as said, pre or post selection of projects beyond what is done jointly. Here's a question. Should applicants identify the funding agency according to their current institutional affiliation or another criterion? I guess I would, if you're moving to some other place, I think you'll just have to find the depends on the timing. But ultimately, of course, it is the funding. The funding will come about 1 year after your submission if you're successful. So if you're moving, make sure to address your future funder. Here, can a project solely focus on case studies located outside the EU or recommended to include at least a studied country in Europe? And I said, you do not need to be focusing on Europe there.
But maybe, sorry, if I can add on, I know again that some funding organizations have some restrictions regarding this. So again, at the level of the call, you don't need to focus in Europe, but keep in mind that you should still check your funder's rules.
Yeah, good, thanks. So what we reply on now are the overarching rules from the Biodiversa Plus side, but you need to really carefully read the eligibility criteria from your own funding organization. And speaking of that, there's a question on some participating countries don't have a meeting after this one. How do we get information from them? And you have the contact points listed in the call documents. I don't know, Clara, how do you
Yeah, I think that I saw one question and I lost it. I think it was about like intergovernmental organization or transnational or international organization, and who should they apply and request funding from? So in this case, so it is really one of the main eligibility principles of the call, that the eligibility of the applicants must be to one of the funding organization from one of the participating countries. So if I take, for example, the case of IUCN, it will depend on the eligibility of the institution versus its location and the national funding rules of the corresponding funding organization. So if a delegation of an intergovernmental organization is eligible for funding in their country, then they will be eligible for this call, but this is a requirement. And so if not, and this is true for all non-eligible organizations, you would be welcome to join a consortium, either as a self-financed partner, or you could be subcontracted by an eligible research partner as well.
Yes, and there was a similar question, if you can include individual researchers from non-eligible countries. The answer is the same, yes, self-funded, or if the funded organization can, according to its rules, subcontract that person, that is also fully allowed from our side.
I have a question regarding the budget, maybe that can be interesting. Is it true that participating countries have a limited budget and that the sum of cost of all projects partnering with this country will be limited by that budget? And just to partially answer to it, in the funding organization rules, for each of the funding organization, you have their contribution to the call in euro, and for some of them, there is the maximum amount of funding per awarded project in euro to help you to develop your project.
Yeah, thank you. And so indeed, each country has reserved a specific amount for this call as a whole.
Yeah, but note also that they all have different levels of funding, so per project. So that also varies a lot. So it's not automatically that less money on the total is actually a less probability that you will be funded. And also the success rates vary very much between the countries. So also smaller budgets can be very important. There is a question on if it can be funded even if the gender balance is strongly uneven. Yes, that is not an absolute criteria. It's one aspect that will be looked upon, I would say. Here is a question on SME again, a business. Do I have to conform to the criteria of all the countries' funding? No, this goes for anyone. Only the country where your funding would come from is relevant for you. So in the consortium, each partner has to be eligible for their funding, and that funding is then given from each national funder to their national or regional research projects, sub-projects, let's say. I hope that is clear. You do not, everybody does not need to comply with all the criteria from all funders, but you do need to conform to the ones that relate to you.
I also have like few questions that are related to specific stages. So is this call can finance independent scientists who pursue scientific study without direct affiliation to a public institution? Again, this would be really dependent of your national or regional funding organization. In principle, yes, it's possible, but some funding organization may not fund private companies or independent scientists. So it should also be checked. And similarly, there is a question on whether it would be possible to work with local stakeholders such as fishermen. And again, absolutely, of course, regarding the eligibility, their eligibility to be funded, this is uncertain and again should be checked at the level of the funding organization. But of course, it's possible to work with local stakeholders. And I think there was also a question regarding the eligibility of cost specifically. So again, I feel that it's often the same answer, but this is a national or regional matter, so it should be checked with your funding organization.
Yes, we are here busy trying to reply to all the many of the questions we try to reply on in writing, so you could see those replies. But here is a question on: is it correct that the different countries participating in the call can all contribute to the funding? On the website of one of the funders, it says the maximum amount of money per application. So that goes for that country. And the question is, if other partners also contribute financially, can the total amount of money be distributed within the project? For example, to ensure there is money for a PhD or postdoc or other researchers or so and so on. And yes, if your national rules allow that, which I think in most cases that would be the case, and if it abides also with your own organization's rules of transferring funds and etc. There is no limit from our side to that.
And I see also some questions that are related to the involvement of policymakers or to stakeholder engagement, and whether we can give example. So we won't have time, I think, now to enter into those details. But for that, I would really encourage you to check the guides and resources we presented, including the stakeholder engagement handbook, because there is actually concrete example and study cases from previous Biodiversa funded project. And so there is a concrete example of successful stakeholder or policymakers engagement in research projects that you can rely on.
And here is a general question on, they have some specifics, but will you be able to coordinate or match us with potential collaborators that don't know about us? Can we request your help as a complement? And I think I can say, no, we do not have the capacity to help people find each other, but we do have the partner search tool as shown in on the slides previously. So please use that one.
Yeah. And I think we are running out of time. We're sorry, because I think we're trying to cover as many as we can in a general way. I know that Sophie and Céline are also working hard to respond to your question through writing. But we need to move on to make sure the national session can start on time. So in conclusion, this is just a final checklist and final reminder of the steps for you to get ready. So check the scope of the call, build your consortium, check the eligibility criteria of the call, but also verify the national regulations for all the members of the consortium. As needed, clarify procedures with national contact points and, of course, the call secretariat, but keep in mind that we will not be able to respond to questions that are related to national or regional rules. So really feel free, do not hesitate to contact them if you have any doubts. Elaborate your proposal according to the call documentation, the instruction provided in the proposal template, and in the guidelines for applicants. So all of this is available from the website. And submit your pre-proposal on the EPSS by 7th of November 2025 at noon Central European summer. No, not summertime. It should be just Central European time. It won't be summer, unfortunately, anymore. So thank you all very much for your participation and for your interest in the call. Thank you also, Bérangère, Magnus, Céline, and Sophie for your help with this webinar. And we wish you the very best with your application. You can find here some of the key email addresses of the call secretariat, as well as the website for the funding organization, the webpage where you can download the funding organization rules. And here, so you should have received the links within an email that I sent this morning. But if you registered a bit late to this webinar, you can find all those links on the BiodivConnect website. So the national sessions will start at 2:30, so in about 5 to 10 minutes. So again, thank you all very, very much, and all the best with your applications.